Good morning, Bucknutters. Welcome to the Bucknuts Morning 5 here on Monday, November 18th, 2024. I am Dave Biddle. I'll be joined by Dan Rubin in just a moment. Not quite the top 5 matchup we expected entering the season, but it's going to be here soon. Ohio State, Indiana, the Hoosiers 5th in the country, Buckeyes number 2. And by the way, Ohio State still has the best odds to win the national championship. If you go by the Vegas rankings, Ohio State is number 1. We're going to get into all that. Apparently, you guys like cornbread hemp because they are returning as a sponsor of the show. We're very happy about that, and we can get you guys a great deal. Cornbread invented the first USDA organic THC edible, and it's legal for anyone in the United States 21 and over. The gummies have 10 milligrams of THC per gummy for just the right dose, perfect for taking off the edge without making you feel anxious or paranoid like other cannabis edibles. If you're looking for a healthier way to enjoy a carefree moment, you have to give cornbread hemp a try. Again, they've created the first ever USDA organic THC gummy that's 100% legal. As a special offer for Bucknuts Morning 5 listeners, you can get 30% off your first order. Just visit cornbreadhemp.com/bucknuts. Use promo code Bucknuts at checkout. Again, that's cornbreadhemp.com/bucknuts. And use code Bucknuts for 30% off your first order. Cheers to a healthier happy hour. There you go. So we're going to hear from Dan in just a moment. I was running a little late, so I had to push the show back a little bit. So welcome to the show, everybody. So yeah, Indiana, if you're wondering, if you haven't seen the spread, Ohio State's favored by 10.5. If you look at the football power index that ESPN does, which is just the computers, spitting out their numbers, Ohio State's got about a 74% chance of winning this game. All right. We have a 100% chance of winning if Dan Rubin joins the show. Bam, just like that. Right on cue. Good to see you, Mr. Rubin.
Thank you for having me once again.
Did you realize that our listeners really like cornbread hemp? Did anybody tell you that?
I've heard a rumor.
Before we move on,
Dave,
go ahead.
They have little I just received my cornbread hemp delivery in the last 24 hours. Actually, it was on Friday. And I'm one of those adults, men, and I guarantee there's a bunch of dudes on here who sleeping, not my strength. Stressing, good. They have a whole chart in there of how you can take the gummies and record your sleep time and stuff. So I'm going to try that, and I will report back here. So if we're late for shows going forward, I'll be still asleep thanks to cornbread hemp.
And if you're on time, you'll just be very, very relaxed. It's organic.
Smooth, Dave.
There you go. All right, here we go. I do want to talk mostly about the Indiana game, but I love getting your thoughts on the previous game. The Northwestern game, I'll just say this. I wanted them to win and get out of there with no major injuries. Check. Assuming JJ is okay. The fact that he went back in the game, I was astonished. But I guess that's good. That shows you that he's not hurt. But, man, that was a dirty play. There's no doubt about that. But that's, assuming the JJ is okay, that's exactly what I wanted to see. Was it, not exactly what I wanted to see. It would have been nice if they would have won by 40 or something. But, man, just win the game and get out of there healthy.
Couldn't agree more. I can't remember another game at Ohio State where we literally never discussed it. And in the national vein, they were discussing next week's game almost, without respite. And I realize at times we've had the game be a big deal, but Indiana, Ohio State was a main topic on the pregame shows this week.
Right.
So I'm serious. So they,
right.
And Northwestern is not, these are not, Darnell Autry is not walking through that door. I get that. But that's a reasonable outfit. And it went about exactly as I expected. It probably needed to get punched in the face a little bit to realize they were playing football. Got down 7-0. And then from there, it was kind of a workmanlike effort. I think basically what you want to see. I don't think there was. We're going to talk about the Indiana game, which I think is going to be Indiana's kitchen sink game. Ohio State did not even go into the bathroom against Northwestern. There was no sink involved. Kind of standard stuff.
Literally.
And I think, the result was about what you expected. And like you said, it's all about injuries at this point. I really think we're going to start to see between now and the end of the season, and that's a different statement now than usually because you're adding games, depth. All the talk about depth was talk. Now it's real. Now you really need to have depth. Now let's say your offensive line doesn't go well and you maybe have like a 4-star offensive lineman on ice you haven't used. You have that alternative to go through. That's called quality depth. And as we go along here, just wait until the second half of this weekend's game when Henderson and Judkins are running rampant and you get another 10-minute diatribe on why the NFL has gone to 2 backs, why Judkins transferred here, and it was a big deal. Did you know that Ryan Day went to Travion Henderson and said, hey, do you mind if we get Travion Judkins? And he said, let's do it, team. And then we went from there. So I really do think the depth is going to start showing up, and that's a good thing when you're the deepest team.
What's crazy to me is every game going forward now will either be against a top 5 team, a playoff team, or both, or Michigan. So that's its own little obviously, especially with what has occurred the last 3 years. I don't care. In fact, I think it's hilarious Michigan's 5-5. They get to play Northwestern this week. I think they'll win that game. They'll be 6-5, get the bowl eligibility. So that way they can finish their season with the losing record. They'll lose to Ohio State and then lose in whatever bowl game they play. But it's interesting because Indiana, top 5 matchup, then the Michigan game, then Oregon probably in the, as long as Ohio State makes it, Big Ten championship game, then the playoffs start. Another thing, I want to get your thoughts about this. Like, I think and we've talked about this. We talked about this throughout the summer, and not a lot of people were talking about it at the time about how ridiculous it is how they set up the buys. We're going to have a situation, not that we're going to be crying for Oregon. Let's say Ohio State does take care of business. They beat Indiana, they beat Michigan, then they beat Oregon. Okay, so Oregon's sitting there at 12-1, splits with Ohio State. Oregon's ranked number 1 in the country when they lose to Ohio State in the Big Ten championship game. Let's say it's a close game. Oregon might drop in the committee's eyes, maybe from 1 to 3 in that scenario. I don't know. But they would actually be like the 5th seed because of the way they've set this up. And then in addition, having to play in the conference championship game, then they'd have to play 4 games. They wouldn't get the bye. It's just stupid how they set it up. They should have just said whoever are the top 4 teams, according to the committee, are the teams that get the bye, in my opinion.
I agree with that, but those are ivory tower discussions, and we know this. This has nothing to do with football. That's a financial.
Yeah, something to do with football, though.
It does. No, the result does, sure, but the people making the decision weren't wearing helmets. You know what I mean? That's ivory tower stuff. And it is interesting because it's going to have a huge impact. I mean, yes, we did decide to go to the 12-team playoff, which is great. But like you said, the rules they've put in are going to end up determining a lot of the vibe for it. I mean, lest we forget, the first college football playoff that Ohio State won, they weren't even in the playoff until the last weekend. Right. And when they were the 4 seed and they won it, and everyone's like, oh, this is crazy. So there's a lot of stuff that's going to go on over the next 6 weeks that we really have no idea how it's going to play out. It's completely uncharted waters. The only good thing, well, a lot of good things about what you said about Ohio State's next games, they'll be favored in every one of those games too.
Right. So
the other team that we're talking about that's doing their podcast right now is probably a little less confident than we are. But I hear what you're saying. There's a very strong argument to be made that at the end of the season, how the teams were seeded will have as big an impact on who wins as almost anything.
Yeah, I don't know what they were thinking with the there were so many scenarios we came up with. Like the one that I kept saying, well, what if like a 3-loss Big 12 team wins the Big 12 championship? Like, you're going to give them a bye? Now that happened, now the funny thing is now the Big 12 champ not even. If that would happen now, the Big 12 champ wouldn't even make the playoff at all, which is hilarious because then Boise would jump them. It's the whole thing is hilarious. Oh, and by the way, Oregon beat Boise. Boise would now perhaps get the bye, and Oregon would be behind them in the actual seedings. It's crazy. Anyway.
But that's the goofy part. Once you award one of those, the word that's coming to my mind isn't very nice. Conferences where the champion is obviously not as good as other conferences, you're chasing your tail from then on. My thing is, if you're going to change it, go all the way. Change it to exactly how it should be. This is like a half measure of change, which means after the season, we'll have plenty to chat about because I'll guarantee you over-under on teams that claim the seeding cost them their season right now, 2.5.
Yeah, that's gonna. And the funny thing is, they're like, oh, now we all knew. I mean, like, Oh, now they have 12 teams, so there's not going to be so much debate. There's going to be tons more debate about like the teams that barely miss it. I mean, they were already freaking out last week, the SEC folks, that Georgia was 12th. It's like if they beat Tennessee, they're going to jump right back in. Don't worry about it, and they did.
I was rooting for Tennessee.
I won't lie, I was too. All right, so yeah, I've watched Indiana a lot this year because I'd love to say I knew they were going to be this good. I thought it was hilarious. Their over/under for win total was 5.5. I was saying, smash the over on that. I never expected this, though. You'd be lying if you said you did. I don't even know if Signetti Googled me. The $72 million man, freshly minted, expected this, but I've watched them a lot. Their offense is legit, and I think Rourke's a good quarterback. He's not that mobile. He was a really good quarterback at Ohio University, too, for his time there. He's a sixth-year senior. They got 2 running backs that are transfers. Both of them are good running backs. I like this offense. Their offensive line is actually, sneaky good. I've watched them a lot. And they've got some players on defense, Dan. I don't think they can hang with Ohio State for 60 minutes because of their defense. That's just my early take on the matter.
So I don't usually do this, but I think we've played enough games and such that I was looking at some team stats this morning. First of all, Ohio State's defense by statistics is the best defense in the country. If you look at the stats that I like Ohio State, best red zone offense, best red zone defense. We've allowed the fewest first downs of any team. However, one team has allowed fewer first downs on the ground by 1, Indiana. So Indiana statistics definitely match up defensively that they are a strong outfit. However, when you figure out who they've played versus who Ohio State has played, look, it's stressful to watch Ohio State's defense, and at times, and I think we all get on them, but we have to understand that, and I realized this when I went and looked at the national stats, the days of holding people to a good team to 6 and 7 points, those days are done. Teams can score. So Ohio State's defense, any statistic you look at, it holds up beautifully. I mean, you could, like I said, you can easily make an argument they're the best defense in the country. Offense is close too, by the way, when you go through it. They don't have some of the gory offensive numbers, but their red zone efficiency and some other stuff is great. With Indiana, when Ohio State lines up against Indiana, how many? So 11 on 11 of the guys Ohio State's going against individually, which one of them would you take over Ohio State? So how many guys on Indiana would start on Ohio State? I don't really know the answer to that. And you can maybe find an offensive lineman or two or something.
Maybe Carter Smith. But although, who would Carter Smith start over? Would he start over Tegra? I don't know.
Well, let me tell you something. I want to make this clear. Tegra, I don't know if he watches the show, but since I called him out for not blocking the right people against Nebraska, he's been fantastic.
That's your guy, man.
When Tegra blocks the right guy, the guy gets blocked.
That's your guy.
Tegra just got to block the right guy.
For those who don't know, Mr. Bucknuts owns a deli. Is it in Oakwood or is it in Kettering? Right on the border. It doesn't really matter.
No, it's catty corner to the DLM, and technically I think that's Centerville. It's like where Kettering turns into Centerville, where D's used to be.
Gotcha. You like Dorothy Lane Market? Is that what you said?
Correct.
Okay, so yeah, so what's the name? We're gonna give him a plug.
It's on fire. All the best deli.
All the best deli, and Mr. Bucknuts invited. It was an event for the foundation. Invited a couple of guys down there from the team, and they had a sandwich eating contest. And to the surprise of no one, I should say, Tegra won the contest. And you said something to him at the foundation event that we went to like late in the summer, and he's just like, he's one of those guys that like, at least hopefully on the field, he's just a man child and like gets mad, but he's just a teddy bear off the field, though. The gentle giant off the field.
No, we talked with the foundation, and I said, bigger moment in your life, being named a starter at Ohio State or winning the sandwich eating contest? And he said it was a push. Now, I'll say this about those of you on the team this year considering entering the All the Best Deli Eating Contest. They fixed it up. We're doing it again this year, and we'll have details on that. The winner was Tegra. The runner-up, Carson Hinsman. The other two involved, Guy Scott and Joe Royer. So ask yourself this question. When did Ohio State really hit its groove? Left guard Carson Hinsman, right guard Tegra Cibola. What do they have in common? They finished 1-2 in the All the Best Deli competition. Lee Scott finished 4th, having a great year as a starter. Joe Royer finished 3rd. Mel Kiper has Joe Royer listed as the 7th tight end for the draft.
He's having a good year at UC.
So note to Buckeyes, if you want to have a great 2026 and 2025, you need to be at the next deli eating contest and show off your ability to take in a bunch of prepared meats.
I would say Julian Sayin needs to get his butt down there, but I don't know if our guy can eat some of these guys. Julian's not a man of large stature, but that's
getting bigger.
There. So I do think he's going to be the quarterback. And I tell you what, I don't know. I mean, I think if something did happen in a playoff game leading into it, and they had to just go with a quarterback, I do think Ryan Day would go with. Hopefully, we never have to find out because I like Big Willie style a lot, Will Howard. Hopefully we don't have to find out, but I'm of the opinion that he would go with Julian Sayin if he had to.
Interesting. For one game?
Yeah, like let's say something happened to like Will and like let's say the Big Ten championship game or something like that in Ohio State, but Ohio State wins and he can't play in the quarterfinal. I think that unless they were really, really, I think they would probably go, or let's say they get to the semifinal, so you're playing a really good team then. I think that he would go with Sayin. My guess is there's just been too much smoke from people that not even just smoke. Too many people that I trust have just said in practice that Julian, outperforms Devin, but who knows?
Interesting question. I don't think I have a real good vibe on that one.
Hopefully we'd never have to find out, but hopefully you guys find out about Prize Picks. Okay, if you guys are into daily fantasy, you will love Prize Picks. I'm into daily fantasy. Prize Picks is the best place to get real money sports action. Join over 10 million users and sign up today. So all you got to do, just download the Prize Picks app, use code Bucknuts, and get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win your $5 bet to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. Think Justin Jefferson will get more than 83.5 yards next week? You think Christian McCaffrey will run for more than 75.5 yards or less? Cook up hot takes with your friends and win real money this season on Prize Picks. Again, download the Prize Picks app today. Use code Bucknuts to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Again, download the Prize Picks app today and use code Bucknuts to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game. All right. Buckeyes favored by 10.5. Speaking of gambling, I really don't care if they cover or not. Some people find that interesting. That sounds about right to me. I wasn't surprised when I saw that.
That sounds fair. I mean, anybody who tells me they have a real good beat on Indiana, I don't think you can have that. The way so much is different. I do find it interesting that they gave the guy the contract this week. Yeah. Why'd they do that? Because if they're afraid if he beats Ohio State, he add $3 million to the order.
I'd need to see the buyout. I'm sure it's hefty, but this is not going to prevent name a team that's going to need. Now, it sounds like Napier's going to keep his job thanks to Brian Kelly, which is hilarious. Name a school with endless pockets, and you can say now Indiana's one of those.
LSU.
Big Ten. Exactly. Let's say this. Oh, that's cool. They're paying you $9 million a year. That's 12 million sound or whatever. Put a number on it. That could happen. I tend to think, man, and I'm also of the opinion, once you have that much money, really, are you really going to go down and be the LSU coach with all that pressure when you can just be at Indiana making $9 million a year? Anyway, I did find that interesting, though. To your point, I was like, really now? Makes me wonder, Dan, if they had been negotiating for a while. Indiana's like, we got to keep this guy. And they finally hammered it out because it was the bye week. It was strange, though. Maybe because it was the bye week, it wasn't as strange, but I don't know.
It's also different now that I don't know if you remember this when Archie Miller got run out of Indiana and that huge buyout. There's Brad, peeps.
What's up, Brad?
There he is. But it was also during the pandemic, so your average dude wasn't flush with cash. So they had an individual come in and just pay out the buyout so they could say it's one rich guy did it. Everyone can chill. We didn't take from the GDP. So I imagine they've had a couple well-heeled donors who are really enjoying this year who went to them and said that we will foot the bill. It's just interesting to me because so much of their success is built on James Madison transfers.
Yeah.
And that's literally, he cannot repeat that. He can't go back in time and bring another group that came through there. So my question for Cignetti is Indiana going to, like, for example, let's say we jested about LSU. Let's say LSU goes further into the crapper and they offered him the job. The question is going to be for him, like you said, oh, you don't want to go down for the money, but LSU also puts a lot more money into their program to make them competitive. Indiana has not been a competitive football program for a long, long, long time.
No.
So
other than the COVID year, I guess, the Michael Penix COVID year, I guess, but that's asterisk city. They were a good team that year, but whatever.
What's Ohio State's record against Indiana, Dave? Do you know?
They haven't lost to him since Darkest Day 1 and then Darkest Day 2. For those who don't remember, so the last time Indiana beat Ohio State was 1988. So that was Cooper's first year. The previous year, Indiana beat Ohio State for the first time in forever. In 1987, it was Earl Bruce's last year. And Earl Bruce, loved the late, great Earl Bruce, said in the post-game press conference, this is the darkest day in Ohio State football history, just losing to Indiana. So then the next year, Indiana beats Ohio State again, and Indiana then, in their post-game press conference, their coach called it darkest day 2 for Ohio State. So it's been, and that's part of my childhood and the trauma that I grew up with. First year of the Cooper era, we have darkest day 2. I say that in jest a little bit, but there you go. Indiana has not beaten Ohio State since 88.
30-0-1 is one stat I saw.
30-1.
I think that's what they are at home.
Where was it? I don't even remember the tie.
Yeah.
That must have been before my time.
It's a ridiculous number. I'm just saying.
Yeah,
it's not like
Hollywood's on top of it, right?
It's not 29-14. It's not like 18-12. It's 30-0-1. You ever see a team go 30-0-1 in a season? Were they good? You know what I'm saying? Come on, man. This would be to say this would be a big win for Indiana. They like it'll be like a statewide holiday on Monday. I'm not even kidding. Justifiably so.
And they have Ohio State full attention. This isn't like, is Ohio State going to be looking ahead to Michigan? Are they not going to be taking Indiana seriously? All they've been hearing, you're right, including last week, people were talking about it. They weren't even really talking about the Northwestern game.
Also, Dave.
Yeah.
You know how much press is going to be at Indiana this week? You know how much more time is going to have to be dedicated to interviews? Do you know how many more? I'm not going to say at a joke. I'm not going to use it. I'll use it after the game. There's going to be a lot. They're coming to game day. Everyone's going to be asking. If you want to talk about pressure, the football program of Indiana, and it's good pressure, they'll say, hey, we've never been good before. This is great. I know it's great. It's still your first time to the Super Bowl. The first time you go to the Super Bowl, you got to be worried about your guys staying out a little bit late. I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying it's their first time in a game of this magnitude. I mean, is this the biggest game in Indiana football history? I mean, if I'm saying that and being silly that it's obvious, it's just because I've never just thought
maybe their Rose Bowl. The last time they went to the Rose Bowl was the 67 season. By the way, Ohio State went the next year, and that's when the Super Softs upset O.J. Simpson and USC to win the national championship. 68 season, maybe the 67 Rose Bowl. I can't imagine. I can't remember that. Indiana's a top 5 team playing number 2 Ohio State. It's insane.
If you were just to bring this up, even like on a plane somewhere, people would start asking you about like Malik Renault and how he matches up with Devin Royal. They'd be like, no, not basketball. This is a football game. Because Indiana does basketball as well as anyone. We know this. Like, that's for real. The people in that state care about basketball the way we care about football. That's facts.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
But they're stepping into a big arena here, man. Big time. This is a real football game. This is I could be wrong about this. There may be an SEC game I'm not knowing about, but this is the game of the week.
Oh, for sure. I already have
20%.
20%.
Let's see how let's see how Cignetti handles it. I'm sure he'll do fine. You want to talk about quotes? If we lose this game, they're going to have some quotes. Cignetti's probably got a few written down he's trying out, but
yeah, he's a
my hope is, dude, look, my hope is this. We just have better players than they do. That's not an arguable point here. When you play Georgia or you play Alabama, or we get into like the 24/7 power poll of how many recruiting rankings, I get it. Every guy that lines up across from the Indiana and Ohio State, every guy will be rated lower than the guy they're going against. Got to win.
Styles and Devin Royal won a state championship in basketball. That's correct, over Gabe Cupps in Centerville.
And that they were teammates.
Indiana, Ohio State debates, Gabe Cupps and Devin Royal. They also traded off Mr. Basketball, where I think Cupps won it when he was a junior, and then Devin Royal won it when they were both seniors. So,
Sonny,
yeah, I remember that fondly.
Sonny was a great basketball player if you didn't like a guy to shoot. How about this? So Sonny played for All Ohio Red, and All Ohio Red made it to the Peach Jam, which is the championship for every year. And Sonny was a reserve forward, okay?
Coming in dunk.
Of all the EYBL, he finished third in blocks.
Ryan
guys
Davis
who went first and second were in the lottery.
Ryan Davis was talking about once at a press conference. He said he saw Sonny. He's like, he saw a play that looked like an NBA player because he caught the ball like near the 3-point line. Maybe he was exaggerating a little bit. Took one dribble and then dunked in a high school game.
The first time I saw Sonny in person was at Flying to the Hoop when he's picked North, right? Central.
Pick Central.
My bad.
Central, yep.
Pick Central came to the Flying to the Hoop basketball tournament, and Pick Central was starting a freshman at power forward. I'm like, starting a freshman at Flying to Sonny Styles. And then you look in the bio, you're like, oh, okay. There was also a game, I'll say this, and this would be my last geeked out version. All Ohio Red, I want to say it was Chris Paul's team, CP3. They played at the Peach Jam. And they really just got overwhelmed. CP3 just had too many good players. Here's what All Ohio Red did. They spread it out and gave Sonny the ball at the top. And he just went one-on-one the whole game. They're like, fine, we're going to lose. You're going to have to guard Sonny every time down, one-on-one. And he put on a show, dude. So, and then he left early and left All Ohio Red early. Didn't even play that senior year. But
right.
You want to talk about a high school athlete that was spellbinding. It was Sonny.
I think we don't forget. I think everybody out here knows this, but it's like you tend to like almost like it's in the back of your mind that this young man should be a sophomore right now. He's a junior because he graduated early, like you're saying. First time playing linebacker, and the results early weren't great. I feel like, and I know it's
coming though.
It's easy to say this because he had 2 sacks, and it's not just about the sacks. One of the sacks was really, he was the beneficiary of one of his teammates, but that's how it works. Sometimes he's going to be the one that gets in there and flushes the guy out. But the other one was definitely Sonny. I also thought, I thought overall I liked Knowles' aggressiveness. A couple of those long drives ticked me off. Some of the not getting off the field off third down, but whatever. Point is, I think Sonny is finally settling in as a not just, oh yeah, he's an okay linebacker. To me, Dan, I'm seeing he's settling in as a good linebacker. Is he great? No, but I think he's settling in as a good linebacker.
I would agree with that. I mean, it's funny. Some of these draft guys that don't know Ohio State, obviously the way we do, and don't know that Sonny was, among the most decorated high school players in the country. They'll go over draft projections. And one guy was like, yes, I think Sonny will eventually be like a free agent. I'm like, dude, no, just wait. Give him a chance, man. You are not looking at the Jimmies and the Joes correctly. There's no way Sonny Styles is a free agent in the NFL draft if you went in the draft tomorrow. Okay.
I think he'll come back next year.
I do too.
I think Sonny will come back to Ohio State next year and play with his brother. We have somebody even talking about this. I'm not for sure, but I would bet, a decent amount of money. Which for me is like $20. No, I would seriously. I think Sonny will come back as a senior. Go ahead.
And I would say this, and I said it earlier in the year: the best thing that can happen to Ohio State's defense is it becomes Sonny's defense. That's the best thing that could happen. A werewolf middle linebacker with that much skill. Keep in mind too, he's not going to have to guard or defend Colston Loveland like he did at Michigan when he was just overmatched last year. That job falls to a guy I like to call Caleb Downs. And he can get the tape on Tyler Warren and see if he can match that up. But that's a huge difference. I said this on the show the other day. I wonder if losing the Caleb Downs recruiting battle the first time cost him the game at Michigan because he would have been guarding Loveland, and that's who beat us. So good to have him now, though.
Good to have Dan Rubin on a Monday. Good stuff, sir. Good to have this live audience. We appreciate you guys very much. Thanks to Dan. Thanks to all of you. Hope everyone has a great rest of your day.